Can y'all hear me? Okay, I'm having a hard time seeing you. Can you hear me now? Is that better? Mike, move up here.
That's what I told them.
Are you afraid we might bite? Okay. Obviously, I did expect a little bit smaller crowd, so that's a good thing. I'm going to talk just a little bit because I want to delay maybe another 5 minutes because that wreck out there was awfully bad. And it was up at 46th, and it took us about an hour to get out here from downtown Nashville. Just a little preview of what we're going to talk about will be the process and where we are at this point. And I've asked the developers speak to the residential piece of it, since that's primarily what the PUD amendment references. We do have the public hearing at Metro Council on March 3rd, and that's the opportunity for the community to come and share with the council members their opinions, yay or nay, for the process. The way that works is the vice mayor will ask for a show of hands of anyone in the room who's in favor of the ordinance, and then she'll ask for a show of hands of anyone who is in opposition. If there is no one in opposition, we typically don't ask that the people in favor of speak. It's just a matter of time management. I will personally ask that if you plan to come and if you do plan to speak, at least let me know. It would help in terms of knowing how the process is going to flow in a timely manner again the night of the meeting. There are quite a few things on the agenda for public hearing. I don't know where this is in the list because we haven't gotten that agenda yet. So I guess without any further ado, I am going to call on Bo Mitchell, if you're here somewhere, to see if there's anything you want to add. Okay, Bo says, okay, Bo says nothing. I will go ahead and at least introduce some folks that are in the room who are running for office and just give them 2 seconds to wave so you can see their faces. We have Vic Lineweaver. You're here, I saw you. Vic is one of the candidates for District 35. Back over there in the corner. And then another District 35 candidate. 35 is Bo's seat. He's term limited out. And so they'll be running to replace him. I thought I saw Lonnie Spivak still here. There's Lonnie. And Dave Rosenberg, are you here?
I am.
I know, I saw you. There you are. There's Dave. Are there any other candidates running for office that are here that I have overlooked? All righty. So now, without any further ado, Tim, you want to go ahead and come on up?
Good evening. Thank you for making this a priority and coming here tonight. Appreciate that very much. I see what Sherry was saying about the glare, so if I miss a hand along the way, help me spot that, if you will. My name is Tim Sidema. I'm a partner with Crosland Southeast. We're the developer that's undertaking the effort to redevelop the Bellevue Mall across the street. Let's go to the next slide. This is the property that we're talking about here tonight. If in case you're here for a different piece of property, you're in the wrong meeting. This is the one, right across the street. It sits right at, obviously, the interstate, I-40 and US 70 South. It's about 75 acres, and there's a dead mall sitting in the middle of it. There's one tenant in the mall, Sears, but the rest of the mall is vacant. Tonight's meeting is part of the planning process through the city of Nashville. We had a neighborhood meeting in November that we basically introduced the planning concepts to you. Tonight's meeting's a little bit different. We're going to talk a little bit more about kind of where we are in the planning process. I'm going to introduce in a second Kim Hawkins from Hawkins Partners. She also spoke in November. She's part of our design team. She'll provide the information as to where we are in the planning process. And then I'll come back up and provide a kind of a leasing update, if you will, on what has happened since November. And then I'm going to introduce another member of the team, Chris Pascarella, who's here representing Crescent Communities and Pearl Street Partners. They're the company that's going to be doing the multifamily, and he's done a lot of design since November, and so this meeting will spend some time on the residential component of our project, and then you'll all have an opportunity to ask any questions afterwards, that surface. So that's what we'll do.
Can I ask a question before you go too far?
Yes, ma'am.
I was not able to be here in November. Can
Okay.
you give a short recap of what are your plans? Because I have no idea what your plans are.
Fair enough, fair enough. Did you all hear that question?
No.
Okay, so the lady that raised the question said she was not here in November, so she didn't get the detail as to what we're doing. So let me take a minute and provide that overview before we get into the actual planning and zoning process. So let me back up. The property across the street is owned by a public REIT. I am the joint venture development partner that is on point working to do the development. Crosland Southeast is a Charlotte-based firm. I'm an owner of that company, and we have a reputation and a history for doing larger, what I would call transformative type projects. For example, here in Nashville, on the east side of town in Mount Juliet, we did the Providence Marketplace project at exit 226. We did that a number of years ago. Long before there was a lot of residential on that side of town, we were able to be involved with that project. It was a joint venture that we did with another developer, and that project was very successful and really helped stimulate a lot of development on the east side of town. We've done projects in Asheville, North Carolina. We did the Biltmore Park project there. That was a very large project right on the south end of Asheville on I-26. We've done projects in Charlotte and elsewhere in the Carolinas, Greenville, South Carolina. We did a big project in just south of Lexington, Kentucky as well. A lot of the projects that we work with or work on include retail components, and we like to mix other uses in because we're looking for something that's sustainable, transformative, walkable, and can really contribute to the fabric of the community, the neighborhood. So we like to introduce, in addition to the retail, some dining and entertainment options, residential options, some professional or medical office options, hospitality. So again, you're activating sidewalks at all different times, you're walking, you're reducing car trips, and you're also providing a core nucleus for the community. Our planning efforts for Bellevue have been underway now for almost a couple of years now, and I think I mentioned in November, we literally have done, approaching now, probably 100 different site plans, because you have to come up with an initial concept, you have to test it in the marketplace with retailers, with the residential folks, with the office folks, and it's a very iterative process. So we've been working on it for quite some time. We'll put the current plan up in a minute, and it will show kind of the state of in fact, Nathan, can we zoom ahead to that? We're going to skip a couple of slides here. I think it'll be helpful to you. So this is the current plan, okay? Interstate 40 is on the upper left. That's where the property touches the highway there. On the bottom of the plan is US 70 South. So and we're sitting right across the street from this property. The concept here is a mixed-use development project that includes a village walkable kind of place-making component in the very middle, with a main street that comes right into the middle of the project, and then some other retail both on the east side of the project as well as backing up to the interstate. So it's kind of a center within a larger center from a retail standpoint. The multifamily residential is on the northern part of the site, all of that. It's about 18 acres, 330 units. And then right on the south end of Main Street, there's a hotel component that's shown kind of in a white box there. That'll be a 4 or 5 story hotel anchoring one end of Main Street. So there will be hospitality there. Main Street will have restaurants and entertainment. The building that's kind of, we call it the terminus view at the end of Main Street is a theater. And then of course you got the residential and a number of other retailers that will provide goods and services. So shoppers goods, there will be apparel, and then there will be services as well. The project is surface parked. We do not contemplate any kind of structured parking or deck parking. We did look at that. That sometimes allows you to increase the density, but there's a cost to the structured parking. It's very expensive, and that is not part of the plan at this point. As you see, none of the existing mall remains, so it is our plan to remove and demolish and remove the entire mall structure that's there. Does that answer your question?
Hey,
Jim, could I ask you, how many parking spaces are in the retail component? I know you're here to talk about the residential, I just have to.
How many parking spaces? So I think Kim can actually speak. I don't know if she's got the specific number.
That's right.
But
you can move on.
But I think we're actually providing less parking than the city requires. So I don't know if we're formally seeking a variance to that, but we get some efficiencies because of the mix of uses in here that we believe allows us to reduce the number of parking spaces in the project and get a little better land stewardship. I don't know what the exact number is, but it's less than the city requires, put it that way. Okay. So at this point, why don't I introduce Kim Hawkins? She can come in and provide a little bit more of an update on where we are with the process.
Thank you, Tim. And just a little bit about the parking. One of the reasons that we're able to provide a little bit less than what might normally be provided in a retail environment is because one of the things that we have done is to provide a mix of uses. And so that mix of uses actually reduces the number of parking spaces that you might have. A lot of Metro's current codes are really based on a number of years ago and not kind of current. So when we start providing the idea of having restaurants and retail and residential and hotel, you actually have people from your residential that might go and visit your restaurant, or you might go to the restaurant and then you might go to one of the retailers. So that gives us what's referred to as shared parking. And so we have a transportation engineer that has looked at that and been able to develop the parking requirements based on Metro's guidelines, as well as that idea of some of that would be shared. So just a little bit about the planning and zoning process. Several of you have probably been with us through the entire process. So we'll kind of look at where we are. What you see on the site today has been there for quite some time, 1998, and that's when that PUD was originally approved. It was updated in 2007, but the plan that was presented in 2007 never got built. So today's plan is a PUD amendment that will pass, or hopefully will pass, in 2015. What's really important probably for you to know is that what we have planned is the same total square footage as what has already been approved. And then the PUD submittal process, many of you or some of you probably participated in that November meeting. I remember it as being almost standing room only in this room. It was amazing, the community interest in this project. We went to the Metro Planning Commission in early January and received approval. And so the next Where we are next is next Tuesday night is the Metro Council meeting. That second reading, traditionally for second reading, is a public hearing. That means anybody from the public that wants to speak for or against a project can attend, and that meeting starts at 6:30. So that will be the public hearing, second reading for this project, and then if it passes council next week, then the third reading will be in the middle of March, and then it will be in place actually in April. So that gets us through the formal planning process, which has to happen before any construction can start. I also wanted to make sure that you knew the only reason we had to do a PUD amendment, we were allowed by the current PUD to do, it was around 1.1 million square feet. We were allowed to do that under the current PUD. We did a PUD amendment because we wanted to introduce the residential component, so that the entire 1.1 million square feet was not all retail, which is mostly what that last PUD was. And so because we introduced that residential component, we needed to go through a PUD amendment. All right, next slide. And Tim kind of walked through that site plan. I think one of the things that we were excited about for this site plan is the idea of being able to provide that mix of uses that, again, goes far beyond just retail, but retail, residential, restaurants, hotel, office, all of those are possible within the site plan. And to be able to kind of tie this development into the neighborhood, right there at Sawyer Brown Road, and kind of knit it in a little bit to make it much more of a walkable, bikeable community, while also improving some of the vehicular access. So that is all a part of this development. It does have right at its center that kind of Main Street. That's kind of the heart of it. We would like to think that that really provides a new community gathering area for Bellevue, and that area right in front of the theater where restaurants might be, the plaza, kind of be a great place to kind of come together. As we've kind of worked through this design, we've had a number of questions about how the sidewalk system works, bikes, etc. And so the next slide, I think, will show you a little bit of the, and this really, you kind of see this whole network or the walking path that we have all the way around the site. And then all of those internal drives also have sidewalks on them. So we're really trying to encourage people to come from outside of the neighborhood and kind of come into the development to really make this be something that the neighborhood embraces. Now, all of those internal roads are also bikeable, and at each one of the nodes, each of those retail nodes and within the multifamily area, there will also be bike parking. We really want to encourage the neighborhood to be able to really use and interact with this community, and it's something that's been really important to me. I've been on the mayor's Bike Ped Advisory Committee since the beginning and have chaired that for the last couple of years. So that's, I think, a really important piece of this, is to make this entire development more walkable, pedestrian friendly, and bikeable. Next is, we heard from several in the community, tell us how you're going to deal with buffers, because we have retail, and then right there along Sawyer Brown there are still some residential homes. And so part of what we've done there is create a bigger buffer than what is required by Metro, by ordinance. So all along Sawyer Brown, wherever there is retail development across from residential development, we have actually increased our buffer, and we're actually providing double the number of trees that would normally be required as a residential buffer. And we're also providing berms there. So we have kind of a 3-to-1 slope up. That just kind of gives you a little bit more break in your visibility across there from the retail to the residential. Where there are existing trees, we're leaving those existing trees. Where there are not existing trees, we'll be putting those berms in, and again, adding the buffer. So the buffer goes along Sawyer Brown Road. A buffer is also required along that back property line, where it is actually adjacent, multifamily adjacent to multifamily, but again, according to the PUD, we're required to provide a buffer there. So those are a couple things that we heard from the community that were important, and have incorporated those into this plan. With that, I think Tim is going to Next slide, a little bit more about, Chris with multifamily,
Let's go back to the
overall site plan. There you go.
Thank you. So I wanted to just make a couple of update remarks based on since November when I was standing before you guys, and I remember the same as Kim does. This room was full. Some of you, I'm sure, were here then, but it was really encouraging and heartwarming to see how many people were here that night. We talked that night in a lot more detail about how we develop site plans and so on. But one of the things that we talked about at that time was eventing and placemaking. And again, talking about the Main Street area there, one of the things that we like to do in our projects is create a place that we can utilize for community functions. For example, in that center courtyard area, just below the theater, we've got an eventing area like that in some of our projects. That Main Street will be a vehicular road, meaning you can drive cars in there, but for certain events, we can close that street off, do outdoor music, do festivals, plazas, lots of different things. Sometimes we'll even do, in fact, I participated this December in one of the projects that we did. We did a Frozen Christmas, and we had the characters from Frozen all dressed up, and we probably had 2,000 people showed up, parents, kids. It was amazing, the community outpouring. This was a project in Charlotte. We do one in Richmond, Kentucky, the same kinds of things where we'll do lots of events, and again, it's a place for the community to to meet friends and gather, and something that we feel is sorely lacking since that mall has closed there. So that eventing area is going to be an important part of this project. Since November, we've been hitting hard not only the planning process, but also the leasing process. And I'm happy to report to you tonight that we've got our first lease signed, fully signed lease, and that's with a theater. In November, there were specific requests for a theater. I said it's our intent to have a theater, and I was negotiating with one at that point, and that lease now is fully signed. So that's our first lease. That's the building right there. That'll be a full-size stadium seat theater, somewhere in the 12 to 15 screen range. State of the art. It'll be a wonderful facility. With that theater will come restaurants, because restaurants like to locate next to theaters. That's an important piece of our plan, and we're thrilled to have that lease already negotiated and fully signed. In addition to that, we're negotiating with about 150,000 square feet of additional retailers. We're trading letters of intent and proposals and so on. So I would say the retail leasing activity is going very well. We are negotiating a contract with the hotel piece. We've got a signed letter of intent. We're negotiating with the hotel operator. We've got a contract with the multifamily folks, and Chris Pasquarello is going to be speaking to that in a second. Yes, sir.
Have you resolved the situation with Sears?
We have not yet resolved the situation with Sears. Thank you for bringing that up. I've had lots of fun since November, and we are still working with Sears. We did close in December. We had a lease with Macy's. Macy's, as you know, has been closed for some time, but they still had an ongoing lease and property there, and we did acquire that property and close with Macy's in December, where discussions are ongoing with Sears, and we hope we can reach an amicable resolution with them in the near term.
Question on leasing.
Yes, sir.
Where you have a grocery store on the front part of the property, are there any in-place contracts outside of Sears that would prevent any certain types of businesses from coming in to compete with existing businesses around the edge?
Are you referring to the Publix that's in front there? Or?
For example, can you not bring a grocery store in as part of that arrangement, or is there anything like that in place today?
So that's a good question. A lot of times in projects like this, there are existing documents that preclude us from doing certain uses. And the question specifically here was, there's a Publix out front. Does that preclude us from bringing another grocer, for example, into the project? In this particular case, no. The answer is no. And in fact, we're negotiating with a specialty grocer right now on the front portion of the site. So we expect to include, it's our desire to include a specialty, more organic style grocer to complement the other uses in the project. I think at this point I'll let Chris come in and we'll do more of a deeper dive on the multifamily.
Good evening. I'm Chris Pasquarello with Pearl Street Partners. We are a locally officed real estate development company. We're based in Brentwood. So tonight I want to first explain Pearl Street Partners and Crescent Communities to you, and then I'd like to show you some examples of work that I hope will outline and provide you some information on the level of quality that we fully anticipate bringing to complement the quality that Crossland will bring into the development of One Bellevue Place. Pearl Street Partners, our company, is a 10-year-old company. We're, as I mentioned, based in Brentwood. We've completed several communities throughout Middle Tennessee in the last 10 years. My background before that was involved with companies such as Southern Land Company, the Walt Disney Company on the celebration, time of celebration in Orlando, Florida, and Gables Residential Trust in Atlanta. So I've had the good fortune and blessing to work for some fantastic companies in my career, great teachers. And I think it's really helped us as a company create a high level of quality in the communities that we develop. And one of the things we do is we pay attention to, we work very hard to pay attention to every detail. And we're also very picky about the sites and locations where we choose to develop and the people we choose to develop with and alongside. Even though we are not partners with Crossland on this project, we feel like we are both stakeholders and partners working collaboratively, shoulder to shoulder through this community. And that's a segue to Crescent Communities. Crescent Communities, Nathan, if you could pull the slide up. Crescent Communities is a approximately 80-year-old firm that based in Charlotte, and it's a very diversified company. They have several different elements: single-family master plan community development, multifamily residential, commercial office. In fact, if you're familiar with Cool Springs and a lot of the office buildings that have been built over the years there on the east side of town, that was their commercial office division. We are collaborating with Crescent in Nashville. We are their local development partner, basically working with them collaboratively on both large-scale master plan communities as well as very high-end multifamily communities here in Nashville. We're very fortunate and blessed to work with such a talented group there out of Charlotte. The next slide gives you kind of a rundown of Crescent's portfolio. They currently have 26 master plan communities throughout the southeast and west, over several states, 16 multifamily communities totaling over 4,600 homes, and they currently have about 25,000 acres of land under management. So a very large company, very well capitalized. We really enjoy working with them because we have a lot of common interests in vision, quality, and attention to detail. So we feel very fortunate to work with them in this market. Our company, as I mentioned, we're about a 10-year-old company, and again, collaborating with Crescent. So you'll hear, Crescent is clearly they're the mothership. We're their local representation, and CrescentCommunities.com is a website you could visit to learn more about that company and what they do and what they're all about. With that said, the next slide. I wanted to just go through some imagery for you and show you some examples of local communities that we've developed together, and then also some communities that Crescent and the architect that we've employed for this community, One Bellevue Place, have created in other cities. So starting with this community, this is Crescent Cool Springs, located in Franklin. We had a contingent, Councilman Weiner was there with also with some other folks from the community, some stakeholders here. And we walked the community, we visited the clubhouse and the model home and walked through the neighborhood just to really give a sense of what we do, how we go through our process, the development design process. This is the clubhouse area. It was designed to have a sort of a commercial look because we are in amongst a lot of commercial office buildings and retail. We developed, resort-style amenities. All of Crescent's communities are designed to appeal to the AAA product price points. So our typical resident has a high disposable income. We go through a very detailed and very extensive background check with all of our residents in terms of backgrounds, financial capabilities to pay rent and all that, because again, it's just important. That's part of the vetting process that our management companies go through to make sure that the folks that come in can obviously pay the rent and live there. So we have some amenities like outdoor. One of the things we do is we create amenities. Is we really do a lot of consumer research. We try to find out what do folks really want in communities and how do we address those needs. A lot of folks love the outdoor lifestyle, fire pits and walking trails. So this is just an example of something that we have there at Cool Springs. Next slide, please. This is the inside of our clubhouse in Cool Springs. Again, it's very much a lifestyle community. Average rents in this community are around $1,300 to $1,400 a month for an average sized apartment, one or two bedroom apartment. So this is our club room. Next slide, please. This is our fitness facility. We really try to create such a robust fitness facility for our residents that they can toss their membership to the health club away. We have cardiovascular equipment, weight training equipment. We have a CrossFit studio with what's called a well-beat system. You can have an interactive spinning class, yoga class, P90X, whatever you'd like. So it's really a full-fledged health club that's offered to all of our residents as part of their lifestyle there. This is a rendering of one of the residential buildings. Not unlike One Bellevue Place, this community is built on a series of a street network. So we've got buildings that address the streets with sidewalks and street trees and connectivity between our residential community as well as the broader office community beyond the confines of the property. So it's very walkable. We have a lot of runners in the area. This is the inside of one of our homes. Granite countertops are standard, high-end cabinets, wood plank flooring. We have 9-foot ceilings, pendant lighting over the kitchen island. So we try to stay extremely current on trends. We typically follow the for sale market. So typically we follow what a upper end for sale market finishes. We haven't done Formica countertops in a decade. Tile backsplashes. The bathrooms are very opulent. They have dual vanities, separate tubs and showers. Again, it feels very much like a for sale environment. Stainless steel appliances. This is an example of a community. As I mentioned before, I wanted to show you a couple of examples. Preston Partnership out of Atlanta is our architect on One Bellevue Place. And this is an example of another Crescent community that is a rendering of a community in Charlotte called Alexander Place, designed by Preston Partnership for Crescent. And the next slide is the picture of the end result. So again, you can see the transformation from the rendering to the picture, or to the actual building. The reason I mention that is some of my brethren in the development world will show folks renderings, and then what ends up being built doesn't necessarily look like the painting. And one of the things, Crescent and Pearl Street really pride ourselves on is being transparent, delivering on our promises. What we'll show you in renderings as we continue to evolve and design this community will be what is created in the community. Next slide, please. This is the inside of that clubhouse. Again, we have very robust budgets for interior finishes, for clubhouses. Again, all of our communities are highly lifestyle oriented. We have The demographic today is incredible. We've got a combination of folks we have to really meet the needs of. We have got folks that are moving down that are empty nesters and moving down to a simpler lifestyle and think they can travel, kind of a walk and go lifestyle. The young couples and singles really want, high-end finishes, high-end amenities, but very convenient. So those are the demographic profiles we tend to address. Again, another example of one of our fitness centers in this community. Next slide, please. Again, another example of an interior finish. Again, island kitchens, pendant lighting, very similar to a high-end for sale. Stainless steel finishes, tile backsplashes. Next slide, please. And then this is the last community. Again, same architect, same developer, but now in Florida, as you can tell. Again, resort-style amenities, zero entry, pools, resort-style pools, cabanas, outdoor fire pits. So trust me, it's not the apartment that I lived in, 25, 30 years ago. The demands that our clients make on us today they want to live in a resort-style environment, almost a hospitality-style environment, and that's we enjoy delivering that. But I wanted to show those as examples of our quality. We feel like it will match up very well with the level of quality that Crossland will bring to the table, and we're very excited about becoming part of that mixed-use community. We think that's just again, I mentioned at the beginning that we're very picky about where we choose to go. Landing in a location like this where we can have a walkable neighborhood, our residents can go over and visit the movies, visit the coffee shop, visit the specialty grocery or restaurant. That gets us very excited. It really matches with our vision for the types of communities we like to bring to bear. And so we're very excited about being part of this team.
Yeah, why don't you stay here? Thank you, Chris. That's really all the end of the prepared remarks. I should have started with this, but I want to thank Bo and Sherry especially for all the work they've been putting into this project, for the advocacy to us for this project, and we certainly wouldn't be here today without their hard work and efforts. So, any other questions? Yes, sir.
Okay, these units.
Hang on a minute. Do you want me to pass the microphone around so that everybody can hear the questions?
There is a microphone.
There's a microphone here. Do you want to come up here or do you want me to just pass it? Okay, if you want to speak, if you want to ask a question, why don't you line up over here like we did that last time. That way everybody gets to hear what's being asked.
One, two. These units, at least looking at the pictures you just showed us, these are all like 3-story buildings with flats. There's no townhouses or anything like that within these units. Is that correct?
Yes.
It's Mike.
Yes, sir. That is our current plan. We feel like with being trying to fit seamlessly within the fabric of the commercial setting. The design being a 3-story is a typical. We don't have any townhomes planned as part of our mix. Having more of a urban flat style seems to really fit the context of the site.
Okay, one other quick question. Approximately what is the square footage of the units, and do they have elevators?
Yes. It's a great question. We have a range of 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and 3-bedroom homes. Overall, our square footage is just under 1,000 square foot average, but it will range from as small as a 700 square foot 1-bedroom to as large as I think 1,350 square foot 3-bedroom. We don't currently have any elevators planned. We typically. Again, it's not something that's normal, but it's not something that's completely unusual either, but that's not currently part of our plan.
So can you guys move the graph back to the second slide, please, of the presentation? Yeah. So
that was an easy one, yes.
Yeah, well what I want to do, thanks you guys for all the hard work, because I know this has been a lot of hard work, but one of the concerns as part of the north side of Bellevue is on North Sawyer Brown. If you'll look in the top right-hand corner up there where the Westfield condominiums are.
Okay.
There was recently a sidewalk built, but the whole point is that there's a whole lot of subdivisions farther north on North Sawyer Brown that have no sidewalk access to this facility. With this facility coming online, trying to get there walking Sawyer Brown on the side of the road is very dangerous, just like it is today. With the more traffic, it's even going to be increasingly more difficult. So as one of the concerned citizens on North Sawyer Brown, we'd like to have some discussions about building additional sidewalks to support us to be able to walk to this facility and do that.
I have actually already talked to the mayor's office about taking that sidewalk up to Stallion.
Awesome. That would help out a lot. The second thing I'd like to mention is, could we somehow get no construction traffic on North Sawyer Brown to this facility? It passes two schools, the Nashville Christian School and Gower Elementary. So we would like to request that no construction dump trucks or semi-trailer trucks use North Sawyer Brown to access this during the construction period. So, thank you.
Has there been any further consideration to any more office space on the property? And then I have a second question.
I mentioned in November that we'd love to include medical and/or professional office in the plan. I've been working pretty hard at that, have had a lot of meetings since then on that exact topic, and I still don't have anything concrete to announce, but we are encouraged by some of the response that we're getting now from the office and the medical office community. There's several discussions underway with a couple of potential users. They may surface or they may not. That's kind of the nature of the business, but we would like to include office, either medical or professional, in the project if we can.
Obviously, I guess you've looked at, filling these restaurants during lunch hours, Monday through Friday, where most of our residents leave Bellevue to work, and trying to bring more work back to Bellevue. That's one of my concerns. Second, with the Sears, in regards to Sears, how about if they don't budge? What happens then? I mean, we build around it, or do y'all just pick up and say, y'all have fun with your Sears, or
I ask myself that question pretty much daily. We actually have plans to work around Sears should they decide to stay. To me, I've been in that store 20 times. I've never seen it have more customers than employees.
So boycotting won't work.
It's hard to reduce sales much below zero.
This is not coming from me.
And no disrespect to the people that work there. I mean, we're sensitive to the fact that they do employ people there, and it's, they've been an important part to that community. We've got ongoing negotiations with them. It's an economic decision on their part, and we're counting on them to do the right thing.
Thank you so much for all you do for Bellevue.
Thank you.
Trying to get caught up, so I have several. There are 5 roads going in now, ingress and egress right now, and on the site plan you had, I only saw one road in, like the main road in, or is there going to be 2 roads in? Is all the traffic going to be dumped at one location? Where's the traffic flow going to go? Because there's going to be a lot more people, a lot more cars. You did say you had 1 retail committed. Are there other?
Let me stop you with the first one, okay?
We'll do that.
First question had to do with access. We intend to keep every access point open that presently exists today, and we intend to upgrade some of those movements so that we could get full movements off of US 70, for example. So our plan doesn't show this well. I think that's part of the coloring and the shading, but we have the same full 3 signalized entrance points off of US 70 that exist today. There's another signal at the corner of Sawyer Brown and US 70. There's another signal at Sawyer Brown right there, just behind Publix. So there's really 5 traffic signals, 4 of which provide direct access into the project. We intend to keep those. There will also be another access point, as you see, bifurcating the residential and the retail right there, exactly.
Okay.
From a traffic standpoint, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that. That's right, the street there shown teeing into Sawyer Brown is contemplated to be directly across from Estabrook, which is the existing street on the east side of Sawyer Brown. From a traffic standpoint, although we're contemplating a similar amount of square footage, because of the mix of uses, this will have less traffic than, because it's spread out at different times of the day, it'll have lower peak traffic than the PUD approved back in 2007, probably the mall originally, although I don't think we analyzed that that far back.
Okay. I love the green space and the extra buffers you're adding. Is that large green space at the back, is that a park-like area, or is that a walking trails between the two large buildings that face the interstate, or is that just?
Do you want to speak to that, Kim?
That area, part of what we're trying to do with all of our green space is make it be multifunctional, so that it might be partial park space, but it also has walkways along it. That particular one right there is meeting a couple different needs. It does include the walkway, but it's also some what we call low impact design. So stormwater management, bioretention, not permanent retention. I just want to make sure, not permanent ponds, but the idea of bioretention. So we're using low impact development, and we're incorporating that in several areas of the site.
Okay, thank you. Next question, I think it was addressed earlier, but the multi-family homes, are they for purchase, for rental, and they are 2-story, 3-story, 1-story?
They're for rent. They're rental units, not for sale. And we contemplate each unit will be single floor, and the buildings will be 3, maybe 4 stories if we get a few 4-story buildings in there. But generally speaking, there'll be 3-story buildings, units on each floor.
Okay. Everything else, I really appreciate your time and energies, and thank you for your questions. And where is Crescent Cool Springs? Because I want to go see it.
Sure. We can. I'd be happy to host one, Sherry, if you'd like to get a sign-up sheet. I'd be happy to host a tour.
If you want to go on a tour, send me an email and I'll set up another tour.
But to answer your question, it is located, if you were to take I-65 to the McEwen interchange, exit 67, head east to Carruthers Parkway, turn left on Carruthers, and we are the main entrance is the second street on the right. And you'll see that building that you saw earlier by the pool. You'll see that building from Carruthers. No, we've got mainly office around us. You might be thinking about the other side of the interstate, but we're on the east side of the interstate. So it's at that point, and it's on the website too.
Let me just add one thing. If you want to go on the tour, let's wait till it warms up. I don't want to trudge in the snow or the ice.
My name is Kim Davis, and I am a homeowner in Bellevue as well as a realtor. And I started in Sylvan Park and made my way to Westmead, and then ended up about 8 years ago moving to Bellevue. And I have 2 questions. My first is on the rentals. I guess my concern is we've been dealing with, crime issues in the area, and where do they come from? And we've got a lot of rentals here, and we've got some condos and probably mostly single-family homes. But was there any consideration given to having those be for sale units because of I guess my concern is that they are going to be higher end rentals, but home ownership, people usually have more of an investment in the community if they own the home or the condo as opposed to just being a rental. So that's my first question that I would like to.
Well, a couple of things. One of the things is what's interesting about the transformation that's occurring in our industry today is we have many of our residents who come and live with us and may not leave for years, because again, it's a lifestyle choice for them. Based on the level of fit and finish and quality and amenity that we're investing in this community, the corresponding cost to live there will be as high, if not higher, than some mortgages on condominiums or even single-family homes in the neighborhood. And so in order to afford that, these are people who have well-paying jobs, they have stable households, they're generally not transient. And what we're offering folks is an opportunity that's a choice. Some folks don't want necessarily to be tied to an ownership. They want that lock and go lifestyle. They want to have the ability for a professional management organization like we'll have with this community who come and change your light bulb. And if you've got a problem with your air conditioning, they're around property, they're right there. We really create a hospitality environment. We have customer service agents. We have a concierge service. So it's really how I like to describe it is that we have a sort of a commercial setting with this mixed use. We have a residential home and a hospitality environment. And that's something that is difficult to have in a for sale environment, because typically it's off-site management and so forth. So we find that our renter profile are professionals. They're high-end empty nesters. We had a lead singer from a band everyone in here would know, who sold his big house in Brentwood, and they were going to build another house. They started renting an apartment, loved it so much they never built the house, because they love that lifestyle. Those are the kinds of folks that we typically see. And as I mentioned earlier, we go through an extremely thorough vetting process before we sign leases with folks to make sure that they check out.
Okay. My second question is, as a realtor, there's always an issue drawing buyers to the Bellevue area, because a lot of our construction is a little bit dated. And they now, of course, they have to pay a lot of money, but they can go into Sylvan Park, they can go into 12 South, they can go out to West Haven, and they can get more modern amenities. And this looks like, the rental units look like they are going to be more modern, but I saw some renderings that looked like they were more colonial in design. And how are we going to, we really need to, Bellevue's a great place. I love it out here, and I want to draw more people out to this area, but I don't think if we're not going to keep up with some of the, the things that are being built in town, we won't be able to draw the people out.
No, that's a great question. I appreciate you asking, because I almost wanted to ask the question of myself so I could answer it. So I'm glad, I appreciate you doing that. I don't know if I coined it or if I heard it and plagiarized it years ago, but I call this type of environment urban suburban, because we are clearly in the context of a walkable urban shopping center, retail center, lifestyle center. And it's tough when you show images like I did, because immediately people might start thinking, oh, that's what they're going to build. And as I said at the beginning, I really want those just to communicate quality. What we design for this community will be fresh, new. It won't be anything else. In terms from an elevation standpoint, it will be designed to fit this community. It will be designed to complement what Tim builds with the retail, the restaurants. There'll be an architectural theme, I think, in terms of materials and quality and scale that will fit, so that when you drive in, our community will seem like it absolutely belongs there next to Tim's. They'll work together. So it will feel more modern in terms of the architectural style.
Yeah, I'm not talking about, taking it to look like a spaceship or anything like that, but just to be more, in with the times, so that we can pull more people, have more of a draw.
And I think it's a great question as well. And there's kind of a chicken and an egg process going on here. Some of the people that are passing on locating in Bellevue are passing on it because the Bellevue Mall is dead, and it's a big broken tooth in the middle of the community. If we're able to successfully transform that project into what we're doing, that becomes an amenity. Our project is an amenity to Chris's residential project, not unlike a clubhouse or a fitness facility. We've got an amenity which is, whatever, 500,000 square feet of retail, restaurants, entertainment options, grocers, and so on. That's an amenity to his neighborhood, but it's also an amenity to the entire community. And I think we'll put Bellevue back on the map for some of the folks that might be overlooking it at this point.
Well, thank you, y'all are doing a great job.
Hi, I'm Sadie Brooks. I own a single-family dwelling. I've been here in Bellevue for 33 and a half years. I've invested a lot in my property. And over the years, I've been a little bit disappointed because it seems like all the high-end development goes to Franklin or Brentwood, or, for instance, 12 South is being developed to high-end things where people get close to $1 million properties or even above. And I'm concerned about my neighborhood because it seems like we're oversaturated with apartments, and it seems like this end of town is going to end up being more thought of as the affordable housing. And for us as long-term property owners, we don't want to see our property values go down. Bellevue has beautiful terrain. It's changed a lot in over 30 years. But I was really hoping for something more upscale. This is a big focal point, this property, for Bellevue. And we can either bring ourselves up with it or stay mediocre or go down with it. And when you said that the square footage for these residents is 700 to 1,000 or 1,300, whatever, that seems very small. And I'm just trying to picture how we're gonna move up with this development.
Thank you, Sadie. Again, we're not going to be able to attract Nordstrom here. That's there's one Nordstrom in town, and it's not here. They've located, they've made that decision, but it's our job to attract as high caliber retailers, restaurants that we can. And part of the goal here, part of the challenge in Bellevue has been basically a lack of density, a lack of population. And part of that is because of the topography here. There's a lot of terrain, hills that are not buildable. And so some of those pockets are getting filled in now, as you can see, every day when you're driving through the community. There are pockets of residential single-family homes getting developed. And that all increases the population. That's one of the reasons having residential on as part of our project is important, because retailers call that captured density. It's another 330 families that can walk right to the project. That increases their sales forecast when they're going through their market analysis. Another thing we're trying to do is grow the trade area. If we do our job, people are going to drive further to get here. Again, that puts Bellevue more on the map for more folks. And to your point about property values, our experience has shown in all the different projects that we've been involved with, property values go up. That's one of the fears that a lot of homeowners have when a project like this is announced. They're saying, hey, I don't want my property values to decline. It's quite the opposite of that experientially. Property values go up because there's more services, there's more amenities, there's more demand for housing here. We expect that to happen here as well. And last point, Sadie, about the size of the multifamily, that's the market. I mean, multifamily rental units are in that 700 to 900 to 1,000, and the bigger units are 12 to 1,300 square feet. That's the market for the highest end communities. Chris didn't say this, but I'll say this. The project that he contemplates here it'll set the bar in terms of quality in the whole community. There won't be another higher end community existing in Bellevue besides his.
But it's going to be more rentals.
It is more rentals.
That's very much of a concern.
It is more rentals.
And it'll make this end of town, again, seem like if you want to rent, go to Bellevue. And
I was driving today. I had some meetings down in Cool Springs this morning with a couple of different real estate folks, and I drove around the area that Chris was talking about with Crescent Cool Springs, some of the projects there. There's 2,000 multifamily units within a 9-iron. I mean, under construction and open. I mean, there's 1,500 units open, and there's many, many, many more planned. The perception is Bellevue has a lot of apartments. Bellevue does have a substantial number of apartments. It's not a lot of apartments relative to other trade areas within the city.
Which is why I like this in town, because it's not as congested, and it's a higher quality of life. You can get to a store, whatnot, and not sit in traffic for a long time and not have to deal with lots of traffic. Thank you.
Understood. Thank you.
I'm Reginald Ewan, local resident, demolition company. I was just curious, have y'all awarded a general contract?
If you have a business card, I'll take it. We have not awarded that. We have spoken with several firms. We've gotten some pricing from several firms. We have not. Thank you, sir.
There you go. So what's the estimated tax revenue from this redevelopment? We can't take a lot. You're asking the board, the council, to vote on this in a month or so, and we don't have any estimates as far as what the estimated tax revenue from this development is?
Yeah, we do have all of those estimates. We've hired a consultant to go through independently and project all of those estimates, not only sales tax, property tax. It's in the millions. The incremental tax is in the millions per year more than is out there today, that exists today. I should have that number burned into my brain.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, I don't. But we got that.
Been a great presentation for this evening, though.
One thing that hasn't come up yet is, so the city council is voting in a public setting on March the 3rd on the planned unit development submittal, the PUD amendment application. They are not voting next week on the tax increment financing request. We have been working with the mayor's office and Councilman Wiener and Bo Mitchell and others, going through the analysis on the tax increment process. This project doesn't make economic sense without a public investment. We talked about that at some length in November. The public investment is not dollars that they're giving to us. We're basically borrowing some of the tax revenue that we're creating through the development of this project, and it gets reinvested in the project. That process requires full transparency. We've hired consultants, built all the analytics. That has been submitted, and we're working through that with the city council. Ultimately, we'll vote on that, and they'll only make that investment if they get a return on that investment that's commensurate with the market risk. And we wouldn't ask them to do it if it didn't make sense.
So I guess Joe Public's going to find out sooner or later what this is?
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm not Joe, by the way.
Let me explain the TIF process for just a minute. The tax increment financing is another ordinance that will go through the same exact process that we've gone through here. There will be a first reading, second reading, public hearing, third reading, and it will be fully transparent in terms of, for the community's investment in the project, how much money are we going to get back over time in terms of revenues that we'll see from the project.
Okay.
So it's coming. It's coming. It's a totally separate animal.
All right. Well, since you've got the microphone, traffic 170, the left-hand turn traffic in this mall is going to be crazy insane, and those left turn lanes aren't even large enough to hold the public's traffic during rush hour. What are we going to do to address that?
TDOT. TDOT is being consulted, and they'll be working on some management of the different intersections on the way around.
I mean, during rush hour, 70 there is nonstop, and now if you start backing up in the left-hand turn lane, that second lane's now going to start backing up, and the only one's going to be moving is the far outside lanes. So,
right, all that'll be worked on as well. That's part of this whole planning process that they'll have to go through once the amendment's completed.
I'd like to suggest that you guys create some penthouses on top of these and make them buyer eligible. That way, you solve both problems. With an elevator, absolutely.
Hello, I'm Lonnie Spivak. I was fortunate to be there the day the mall opened, and I bartended my way through college at Ruby Tuesdays, so thanks. One of the things, in my opinion, that was the downfall of the mall was that they built and had stores higher price than the community could afford. That and the fact there weren't any other things around it. I'm very thankful that you guys it looks like you're going to be building a beautiful facility. But you'll be competing with Nashville West, which is also a very good facility, and it pulls a lot from the Bellevue area. My worry is that the recruitment will be higher than the people of Bellevue can afford. We are all still working families up here, by the way, and it's a great facility. It's only as good as we can afford to shop there. So I wanted to know if you guys had any plans or were looking at what kind of retailers and restaurants you were looking at recruiting to the facility, and if that was something that you guys had in mind as you were looking at the demographics and the other areas of Bellevue.
Thank you, Lonnie. Absolutely. I mentioned, I used Nordstrom as an example earlier. You know, to amplify that example, Nordstrom's looking for the highest discretionary disposable dollar in any market they're going in. I live in Charlotte. They went to the South Park Mall in Charlotte. You know, they're in Green Hills here. I mean, that's where that store goes. They wouldn't go to Mount Juliet. They didn't go to Cool Springs. They wouldn't come to Bellevue. That's just not their core customer. We've done a lot of demographic analysis. We know the profile of the consumer here. Solid middle, upper middle income folks. You know, there are people here that make millions a year, but they're the outliers. And they'd be the outlier, frankly, in any community. There aren't communities that have, averages that are stratospheric like that. So it's our job to meet the market with, and maybe push, aspirationally push some of the retailers just a little bit to come here. But some of that is self-governed. Nordstrom wouldn't come here even if I gave them the land, because they're looking for their specific core customer. The restaurants too, if I said, hey, Bruce, Chris, time to come out to Bellevue, they probably would self-govern. They wouldn't say, that sounds great. I mean, so we've got to meet the marketplace, and we've got studies that help us make that case to each of these different retailers.
Well, as I was there the day that Bellevue Mall opens, I look forward to being there the day when Bellevue Place opens.
Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Linda Prater, and I wanted to address the issue of possible elevators in your residential development. Now, the reason being is that you can look around this room and the majority of the people in this room are over the age of 55.
So am I.
Yes. And as we age, it gets increasingly hard to go up and down stairs. And I can tell you that there are many, many people, even in this room, who are very, very interested in these apartments. But you're not going to get them into those apartments unless you have access. And then when you said a while ago that there might be even a fourth floor, don't go there unless you're going to put elevators in the buildings. I'm serious. I'm a senior citizen myself. I don't even like going upstairs and downstairs into my basement. And as soon as these are built, my husband and I are going to look at the first floor.
Did you see the pictures of the exercise rooms?
Has nothing to do with that.
That's why their exercise rooms are.
Yeah, but have you tried to carry groceries up 3 flights of stairs? No, it has nothing to do with exercise.
Oh, I understand that. I'm sure Chris's team is going to model that very carefully. But again, if there's three-story units, that means 1/3 of the units are on the ground, 1/3 of the units are on the second floor, and only 1/3 are on the third floor. So, and there may be, and we've actually talked about having several buildings that might be, we'd like from an architectural statement standpoint to have some vertical scale. So we may shoot to get some 4-story buildings there, but those buildings, because they're 4-story, might have elevators. So we'll be looking at that.
But you might take into consideration that Bellevue alone has an extremely large senior citizen population. I've lost count of the number of assisted living homes that are, assisted living facilities that are out here now. And we've got at least one more under construction over off of Highway 100. So I would take that into consideration. And thank you very much for considering Bellevue. We're excited. We're glad you're here.
Hi, Tom Cooper. Tim, we've exchanged a few emails. I'm the guy that goes on about cycling, safe cycling in Bellevue.
You're the bike guy.
I'm the bike guy. Yeah, I write for the Bellevue Messenger, and I bother Sherry every chance I get. The good news that you bought out the lease option from Macy's, because they actually were in control of parts of that property until the end of 2017, right?
Yeah, we bought them out the end of 2015, so they're completely removed from the project.
So let's say your dream that you negotiate an exit for Sears, is it possible that the start date of the redevelopment could be moved forward?
Well, there are a number of things in addition to Sears that need to happen for us to start. It's difficult because the process is so complex. It's difficult to say we're going to break ground on a specific date certain, but it's our target to start demolition before year end. Between now and then, we have lots of things to do. We've got to reach resolution with Sears. We've got to complete the PUD amendment process. We're in the preliminary plan unit development process. There's a final PUD process that follows. That's more of a specific design process. So we got to go through all the engineering, design, the architectural design. John Gore is here tonight with Barge Coughlin. He's our engineer on the project. He and his team have worked hard, and they've got a lot more work to do. Great group of folks. We're glad that they're involved. We also have to go through and sign a bunch of leases, because we need a construction loan to do the project, and you can't close a construction loan without the pre-leasing. So all of that takes a lot of time.
It's all right, good. Thank you very much.
Hey Tim, Jad Duncan, President of the Bellevue Chamber of Commerce. First of all, I want to thank, on behalf of the community, for you being here. We really appreciate it. I think that this looks like it's going to be a top-notch project. One thing that I do want to address, though, that one of our fine members of the chamber actually addressed earlier, is the office portion of it. And I know that you are attempting to recruit, but can you go over, is there a particular building or any area on this? I believe that at the last meeting in November, you had mentioned that building B, if I'm not mistaken, which is right.
Is that right?
Okay. I'll see if this can stretch all the way here. So, so this building right here, we've talked to a few folks, but right now I call it a placeholder. That's a large format retailer that's shown here. We actually have several other design options, some of the 100 plans or so that we worked on, which has, you see this existing building, that's a little medical office building here. Sure. That's full. I understand they're making plans to do a second phase here, an expansion of that building. So this is kind of a little bit of a core for office. We've got some planning options that I've actually presented to some of the more prominent folks in the real estate community here that work with larger office tenants, where we've actually converted this whole part of the site into professional office and some medical office. In that deal, whether we put structured parking or surface parking dictates how much square footage we could fit there. But we've got plans that show up to 300,000 square feet of office there. Now, nobody today is going to go build 300,000 feet, 200,000 feet, even 50,000 feet of office on spec, meaning without leases. So for us to do office, the demand has to be there. We have to have, just like we wouldn't build any of this retail without having anchor tenants signed up in advance, we've got to have anchor office tenants signed up.
Sure.
But we've done a lot of conversations with folks now, and we'll continue to push that.
Well, and that leads me to my next point, and I'm hoping to ask you in this public forum if you're willing to work with the Bellevue Chamber and work with folks with the Nashville Chamber to try and help recruit some of these folks, because I absolutely agree with the gentleman who spoke earlier, who said that, we got to put Bellevue to work. We got to get people working here in the community to be able to continue to sustain a restaurant climate, to continue to sustain a retail environment. Lonnie was here for the opening of the Bellevue Mall, and I was too. And interestingly enough, I think there's a part of it that, Bellevue needs to be able to live, work, and play all in the same place. And I think that an office component to this property is crucial for its survival and crucial for its sustainability. And if you're willing to work with us, I'd love to be involved in the conversation with trying to recruit small businesses, folks that have dreams here, that have, law offices. I mean, heck, I even talked to Sherry several times about, hey, my law office, I'm glad to be one of the first tenants in this office space, And so I just am asking you personally if you're willing to work with us as a chamber and as an organization to try and recruit some solid small businesses that are based here, either in Bellevue, Nashville, and the Middle Tennessee area.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Very good. Thank you.
One last question. If you are able to demo this year, when would you expect completion or opening?
So the question was, if we begin demolition before year end, when is the project, when is it anticipated that the project is complete? We are negotiating with retailers right now who require specific schedules for their opening, and what dates that we're working on with them is we're telling them kind of middle of 2017. So if we start kind of year end, or call it January of 2016, we've got 3 to 4 months of demolition before we can really kick the grading into high gear. All in all, it's probably about an 18-month project, and so we're looking for delivery to stores sometime around middle of 2017. That's the rough schedule. We're going to do everything we can to adhere to that schedule. Please understand, these things are so complicated. I'm always a little hesitant to put specific schedules out there because it's so difficult it's like cooking a 1,000-plate meal and having everything come out hot at the same time. There's so many components to a project like this, all of which have to happen for this project to succeed. So it's very difficult to have them all come out of the oven at the same time in order to meet all these schedules. But that's what our internal schedules indicate. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, my name is May Cagle. I've been out here in Bellevue 53 years. I have seen it come from a cow pasture to what it is now. And I am so grateful that y'all are putting something out here to see. The old mall, I did not care for. I mean, you saw a building there and a parking lot. I mean, I didn't go over there, and I'm not a big shopper, but when you put in these low-level buildings, I'll be there. But I mean, as job-wise and all the things that y'all are planning, I'm all for it.
Thank you. Thank you. Right now, there's a lot of shoppers in Bellevue that are shopping outside of Bellevue, right? And it'll be our job, and frankly, your job, to buy Bellevue. In fact, we've even talked about having some kind of a campaign to that point. So hopefully, we're counting on you to vote with your feet. when we get this project going, we're counting on you to vote with your feet and your pocketbooks and shop and dine and do your entertainment here.
Well, Tim, we just want to thank you for coming out tonight, giving us all this update, the information. We appreciate all the hard work you're putting in to make sure this happens. And I'd just like if everyone just give this great team a round of applause. And we, Sherry and I appreciate all y'all coming out and helping, bring enthusiasm to this. And we're looking forward to working with these folks to make this reality. And with that saying, thank you and appreciate all of y'all coming out here tonight.
We'll keep you posted on the next process.